And now, back to our stage from England, the Rolling Stones.
When Charlie came in and picked up the sticks, man, boom, there you are.
My function in the band I play in is to keep time and keep out of the way.
I mean, Charlie was a heartbeat for the band, you know, and also a very steady personality, you know, he's a very reliable person.
As Keith would say, we play by feel, which we do really.
Charlie played musical hooks within the song. Like, you cannot play these songs without quoting these hooks that are part of the music.
Get Off of My Cloud is one of the quintessential Charlie Watts drum performances. His playing drives the song from start to finish, showcasing the power of discipline, restraint, and repetition. From Charlie's classic drum intro and unrelenting verse groove to the steady bass drum patterns in the chorus, Charlie's approach on this track was ahead of its time. Join us as we dive into the genius of Get Off of My Cloud. The Stones recorded this song over 2 days in early September 1965 at RCA Studios in Hollywood with engineer Dave Hassinger. The recording has a raw, live sound and a real sense of urgency. It perfectly captures the youthful energy and rebellious spirit that defined the Stones in those early years. By 1965, the Stones were already huge. In the UK, they'd scored hits with Not Fade Away and The Last Time, and then came I Can't Get No Satisfaction that summer. And that changed everything. That song launched them into full-blown stardom. But with that kind of success came pressure, and a lot of it. Get Off of My Cloud was their answer to all of that. The sudden fame, the non-stop demands, and the expectation to deliver a follow-up hit. Here's how Keith Richards put it. The band was exhausted and feeling hounded by demands from all sides. Fans, record execs, the press. They channeled that feeling into a song that essentially tells the world, leave us alone. Mick Jagger also echoed this in a 1995 interview with Rolling Stone. He called it a stop bugging me post-teenage alienation song. The grown-up world was a very ordered society in the early 60s, and I was coming out of it. America was even more ordered than anywhere else. I found it was a very restrictive society in thought and behavior and dress. Lyrically, each verse of the song paints a picture of constant intrusion. Whether it's phone calls interrupting a quiet night or a parking ticket ruining a city drive, that chorus where they say, "Hey, you, get off of my cloud," became an anthem for frustration, one that a whole generation could relate to. Ironically, that message of wanting peace and quiet sent the song straight to the top of the charts, and it hit #1 in the US, UK, Canada, and Germany. But despite its success, the band never fully embraced the track. Keith Richards later said that he never dug it as a record, calling it rushed and poorly produced. Because of that, the Stones dropped it from their live shows after 1967 and didn't bring it back until 1999. But even with all that criticism, Charlie's drumming stands the test of time. That hypnotic groove has stuck with listeners for decades. It's the heartbeat of the song, and that's what we're diving into next. Drummers love this song because Charlie is front and center. He kicks it off and he sets the tone right away. He's playing a 2-bar pattern, and at the end of every 2 bars, you'll hear a signature Charlie Watts drum fill, one he uses throughout the entire song. When you're learning this groove, pay close attention to the slightly open hi-hats, the 4-on-the-floor kick drum pattern, and the double backbeat on beat 4 and the and of 4. It's something you'll hear a lot in early rock and roll and surf music from the 60s. You'll notice in that section that Charlie keeps the kick drum going through the drum fills, and this is a great tool to use when you want to play a fill but you don't want to lose that sense of groove. People can still gravitate to that quarter note pulse even though there's something busier happening over top of it with the hands. Another thing we noticed while preparing for this video is that if you listen really closely to the drum fills in bar 2 and 6, you can actually hear what sounds like 2 quick hits on Charlie's bass drum. Now, without being there in the room on the day the song was recorded, there's no way to really know if Charlie was playing those doubles on the bass drum. It could have been something with the microphones they were using, or maybe the beater bounced back and accidentally struck the head again after the initial hit. But from what we know about Charlie's playing style, playing quick doubles on the kick drum wouldn't have been something that he normally did. Since we don't believe it was Charlie's intention to play those as doubles, we've chosen to notate this part with just single quarter notes on the kick drum. As we get into the first verse, Charlie starts adding in some ghost notes on the snare drum, a detail he only uses in the 3 verse sections.
I live on
Now, if you're watching this and thinking this all sounds great, but I'm not good enough to play these parts, I want to stop you right there. Even if you've only been playing drums for a few weeks or months, you absolutely can play these grooves. Don't stress about getting every little detail right at the start. You don't have to play it exactly like Charlie Watts on day one. We filmed a full lesson covering all of these drum parts over on Drumeo, where you and I will get to practice together, have all the notation on screen, and we'll start out super slow and build things up from there. Just jump in, have fun, and start making some noise. You can click the link in the description, you can practice with me, and I'd love to see you there. Now, written out, these grooves and fills might look simple, but Charlie's feel is pretty unique, and I love how Stuart Copeland described it. He said, he leads with his right foot on the kick drum, which pushes the band forward. Meanwhile, his left hand on the snare is a little relaxed, a little lazy. That combination of propulsion and relaxation is the technical definition of what he's doing. That feel Stuart's describing, both urgent and relaxed at the same time, is very difficult to replicate. It's something unique to Charlie and a huge part of what makes this song so iconic. Charlie Watts, like so many other rock drumming legends from the 60s and 70s, was heavily influenced by jazz.
He did love jazz, and that gave him the subtlety that perhaps that he wouldn't have had if he hadn't been such a student and also played jazz a lot. But he was a rock drummer as well. Really, he was a steady rock drummer. He wasn't just a jazz drummer showing off or trying to be too technical.
Everything he played had that underpinning of jazz and blues. Like a rock drummer wouldn't do that, but rock and roll drummers, the people who invented the genre in the first place, they were all jazz musicians. If it doesn't swing, it doesn't have a thing, and so that's what Charlie worked to implement in all of the stuff. You don't have to do exactly what he played or what I'm playing now or whatever, but it's got to feel good. It's got to swing. It has to have a roll to it. Can't be stiff.
His drumming on this track isn't about flashy fills or complex rhythms. For the most part, he sticks with the same core groove for almost the entire song. It becomes a drum part that you just can't unhear. In a sense, the drums are the melody.
I was always brought up under the theory that the drummer is an accompanist. I don't like drums, so I don't ever take them. I admire some people that do them, but generally I don't like them. It's not something I sit and listen to. I prefer drummers in a band, playing with the band.
I say, hey, yo, get off of my cloud. Hey, yo, get off of my cloud. Hey.
I think the most unexpected part of Charlie's playing on this track happens in the choruses. Now, keep in mind, this was still a few years before bands like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, and Black Sabbath started releasing music, and this was nearly a decade before punk rock officially arrived. When Charlie gets to the chorus, he shifts to playing the snare drum on all 4 beats, on top of that steady 4-on-the-floor kick pattern. That instantly brings a whole new level of energy to the groove. But then by the second bar of the chorus, he takes it a step further and starts playing the bass drum on every 8th note. It's a pretty bold move, especially for a pop song in 1965. As chorus 2 approaches, Charlie ramps things up even more. He starts those steady 8th note kick drums before the chorus even begins, and then keeps that pulse going through the entire section. Another thing that stands out is how sparingly Charlie uses his crash cymbal. He only hits it at the very end of chorus 1 and chorus 2. That's it. The rest of the song is just kick, snare, and hi-hats. This idea of playing steady, faster kick drum parts is something we'd hear a lot more of in the 70s and beyond, but it's pretty cool to see Charlie thinking outside the box on a track like this, especially in the mid-60s.
My thing, whenever I play, is to make it a dance sound. Doesn't matter whether it's a blues or whatever, it should swing and bounce.
To truly appreciate Charlie's sound on Get Off of My Cloud, we've got to talk about the gear used on the recording. Charlie was known for keeping things simple. Back in 1965, when the song was recorded, he was playing a 4-piece Ludwig kit in a sky blue finish with a superphonic snare and Zildjian cymbals. And this was a few years before he made his famous switch to Gretsch in 1968. For this video, we're using a black Gretsch USA custom kit like the one Charlie switched to in 1968. And this also happens to be my favorite drum kit that Charlie played. And we also have his signature cymbal setup that he used in more recent years, including the 18-inch flat ride and 20-inch riveted china. So we're paying tribute to a few different eras of Charlie's gear.
We actually were rehearsing for one of our tour cycles. They were rehearsing next door to us. And it's that same kit that he's had forever. Hearing them play next door, pretty incredible.
Like his style kind of informed his playing, I thought. Like, he just looked so classy when he played. Yeah, his drumming was super funky.
Just feel. With feel comes those imperfections, you know, just the way that tempos can swing and, you know, they could push and pull. And you know, Charlie Watts was one of those great drummers from that era that did that.
He just had such a sound, like the whole thing of not hitting the hi-hat when he hits the snare, it's so him, and he just did that perfect thing for what the Stones needed. And it was simple, like to play like a stadium to 80,000 people and just have one rack tom, one floor tom, you know, like 2 cymbals or something like that. It was so cool and refreshing to see that, and it was always just about the music and always about the drumming.
I mean, he was kind of the epitome of the Rolling Stones. Like, he was just the dude that laid that foundation. You know, Charlie was as much part of the Stone sound as Keith and Mick and everybody else.
We got to open for the Stones in the 90s, and Charlie I got to watch him every night. He sounded so good. I mean, he's the heartbeat of that band. Everybody else is sort of just up there f***ing around, and he's just like solid as a rock, but with that real loose Charlie thing, you know?
Thank God for Charlie, thank God for Ringo, thank God for Keith, thank God for John. They're the Mount Rushmore of rock and roll drummers.
When Get Off of My Cloud hit the airwaves in the fall of 1965, its impact was immediate. Every aspiring drummer had a new groove to chase down, that unmistakable Charlie Watts drum intro. Even Max Weinberg remembers just how defining Charlie's style was at that point in time. When I was a kid in New Jersey, if you were looking for work, there'd be ads for musicians. In the mid-60s and 70s, they would invariably say, "Wanted Charlie Watts type drummer." Charlie is not just a drummer, he's a genre. Every beat I play, there's Charlie Watts in there someplace. For many drummers, it was the first time they realized that drums could actually carry the entire song. Alice Cooper's drummer Neil Smith even admitted he borrowed from it. The original idea for Billion Dollar Babies was a more straight-ahead drum part. Because I'm a rudimentary drummer, I love flams. I wanted to do a big flam intro. It was my own edition of Charlie Watts on Get Off of My Cloud. Beyond his playing, his gear choices have also influenced drummers, including Phil Collins.
And you've played Gretsch for so many years. What made you land on the Gretsch concert toms?
Well, Charlie Watts, Tony Williams, you know.
And when you go down the rabbit hole of fan conversations on Reddit, YouTube, and beyond, Get Off of My Cloud consistently shows up as one of the most quintessential Charlie Watts performances. On the legacy of Charlie and his drumming, I love what both Mick and Keith wrote about him in their forewords in the new Charlie Watts biography. Here's what Mick said. Charlie was an incredibly open-minded musician, and there was a real subtlety about his playing. He wasn't super technical, but he was very adaptive. So when he got a new beat, he got very excited about it. And you can just imagine when they tracked Get Off of My Cloud, that was one of those moments for Charlie. And also, here's what Keith wrote. Charlie was just what you got, which was Charlie. He was the realest guy I ever met. Well, there you have it, the genius of Get Off of My Cloud by the Rolling Stones, a song that captured the magic of Charlie Watts drumming back in 1965 and continues to inspire drummers around the world to this day. Without that groove, the song wouldn't be the same. Charlie carried the track, showcased the power of discipline and repetition, and in doing so, created one of the most legendary drum parts in rock history. Now, down in the comments, let me know one thing that you've learned from listening to Get Off of My Cloud and Charlie Watts drumming. And also stay tuned for the next episode in the Genius Of series, which is on Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, and we're gonna dive deep into John Bonham's legendary drumming on that track. And lastly, don't forget we have a full breakdown of Get Off of My Cloud if you actually wanna get behind the kit and learn how to play this song. We also have lots of other song breakdowns inside the Drumeo platform that you can check out as well. There's a link down in the description where you can try 7 days of Drumeo for free, and I'd love to practice with you more inside the platform. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.